Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something really quite different.
Yeah, it's fascinating source material.
It's not just another breakdown of a scam, is it? It's this rare chance, like an unfiltered look inside the mind of a scammer who just dropped the act completely. We're going to unpack this conversation that, started as a typical scam call, but then twisted into something else entirely. A confession, really.
And that's what makes it so compelling. We've got this 20-minute recording. It's not just, here's how to spot a scam.
Right.
No, it's a mission, almost, to pull out these surprising insights, the psychology, the methods, the whole ecosystem of modern fraud.
We're going beyond the usual warnings here.
Okay, so let's set the scene. How did this even happen? It starts back in March 2025. The author gets a call. Pretty standard stuff, right?
Yeah.
Spoof number, caller claiming to be from American Express fraud department.
The classic script.
Exactly. Suspicious Apple purchases, vendors nobody's heard of, and this urgency. We need you to confirm the security code to cancel the charges. But that code wasn't for canceling.
No, that was the catch. It was actually the code to authorize the payment. Very sneaky.
So the author pushed back.
Yeah, challenged him repeatedly. And the caller, he got flustered. You could, apparently hear it in his voice. Eventually he just hung up, but not before giving a name. A fake one, obviously. Michael.
Right, Michael. But the story doesn't end there, which is unusual.
Not at all.
He called again. In July, so months later, same voice, same scam attempt, basically. But the author wasn't set up to record that day.
Okay.
Then, just 2 days after that July call, he rings a third time.
Wow, persistent.
Incredibly. And this third call, this is the one that got recorded. And it wasn't really a scam attempt this time. It was, the author described it as part phishing recon, part emotional ramble.
And part confession.
Exactly. A real glimpse into the mind of this scammer who didn't hang up. He opened up instead. And that's the core of what we're diving into.
So what was that opening like on the recording?
Oh, it was something else. He starts with Jason, talking to the author. Whatever I do, I'll make sure I don't get nicked, just so me and you can maintain our relationship.
Wow, that's bold and weirdly personal.
Right. It set this really strange tone straight away. Like bravado mixed with tiredness, maybe, and definitely ego.
And he talked about his actual process.
Oh, yeah. He laid out his daily grind, claimed he makes 400 calls a day.
400?
Yep. And said his daily target was 10,000 pounds.
That's intense.
He even mentioned how cheap data is. Said personal records sell for as little as $5 each.
Just $5 for someone's detail.
Yeah. And he knew his stuff. Knew certain banks were easier targets. And he had this take on Amex customers.
What was that?
He said something like, you must have some type of level of intellect to get your credit to that level, yes.
Yeah.
Basically implying their confidence makes them predictable, maybe easier to fool in some ways.
Interesting psychological angle there.
And he was proud of his technique. He made a point of saying he didn't use a script. It was all, quote, off the dome.
So improvising.
Yeah, which suggests, a certain level of skill or at least confidence in his social engineering. He wasn't just a robot reading lines.
He's adapting, thinking on his feet.
Exactly.
And did he mention the tech side, like the spoofed numbers?
He did. He knew about spoofing, how sometimes a routing fails, so a call or even a spoof text from Amex might not go through.
Yeah.
He seemed to understand the vulnerabilities he was exploiting.
Okay, so he's got this bravado, this knowledge, but then you mentioned cracks in the mask.
Yes, and this is where it gets really fascinating, I think. There was this moment. The author asked him how he felt after his very first successful scam.
Right.
And there's this long pause, really noticeable. Then just this quiet, kind of distant answer. On to the next.
On to the next. Not pride, not guilt, just flat.
Exactly. It didn't sound like celebration. It didn't even sound like active remorse. It felt like maybe numb repetition. Or maybe even, a flicker of something sadder.
A human moment.
It really felt like one. Maybe some conflict there, or perhaps like the author felt, some connection to that first victim. It didn't feel performed.
That really undercuts the whole confident scammer persona. Were there other moments like that?
There were, yeah. As the call went on, apparently his deflections got slower. The sort of swagger turned into more like mumbling at times.
Signs of weariness.
Definitely weariness. Maybe boredom, fatigue, maybe even regret. It's hard to say. It wasn't consistent confidence.
And didn't he say something about being befriended?
Yes. That was another key line. He said to the author, "You befriended me, Jason." Which is just It points to this really strange, maybe twisted, need to be seen, to be understood,
Even by the person he failed to scam.
especially by him, perhaps.
Wow. Okay, what about this exit plan he mentioned?
Ah, yes, the grand plan. He kept bringing up a legitimate exit plan. He was going to make 10 million pounds and then get out, start investing in
That
property.
sounds ambitious. Did it sound real?
Honestly, it sounded hollow, kind of rehearsed, more like a justification maybe, or a fantasy, he tells himself.
Like a compulsion rather than a strategy.
Exactly. You see this pattern sometimes with people in high-stakes deception or even gambling. They get hooked on the process itself.
The game.
Yeah, the game. The lies, the adrenaline rush, the wins. It becomes more about that than just the money.
So the 10 million is almost beside the point.
It could be. It feeds into that need to be seen as successful, maybe, to be admired, even for the wrong reasons. It's
Yeah.
all part of this psychological theater he was performing.
Right. And this theater included him claiming he was a lone actor, didn't it?
He did claim that. But his own words kind of contradicted it.
How so?
Well, think about it. Cycling through thousands of records, that suggests access.
Right. Not something you just stumble upon.
No. It implies access to full data sets, names, numbers, addresses, probably brought from data brokers like he hinted at with the $5 price tag. Plus, knowing which specific banks are easier. Understanding the tech behind SMS spoofing, why rubes fail. Knowing that Australians are supposedly easier targets than people in the UK now.
That points to more than just one guy in a room.
Absolutely. It points to that whole web of infrastructure we talked about. Data brokers, feeding lists, maybe SIM farms for the calls and texts, ways to move the money mules, laundering networks.
So even if he saw himself as solo, he was likely plugged into a bigger machine.
It seems very likely.
Yeah.
Maybe a mid-level player in a larger syndicate, even if he liked the lone wolf image. It's rarely just one person acting entirely alone in these sophisticated scams.
And some of the things he said were pretty chilling, weren't they? Delivered casually.
Oh, definitely. Things like, if the victim is too stupid, they're not getting the money back. Just tossed off like that.
Blaming the victim.
Completely. And then trying to justify it. We can agree I'm a scumbag for what I do, but you can't tell me it doesn't take some form of skill set. Seeking validation even then.
While clinging to the fantasy, I know I can quit. I've got a legitimate exit plan.
Mm-hmm. And that line, again, the really striking one, you befriended me. The impact of that.
It's a lot to take in. So the author had this 20-minute confession on tape. What did he do with it?
Well, the responsible thing. He contacted Action Fraud, the UK's reporting center. Explained he had this recording of the scammer who'd called him months before.
And how did that go?
The person he spoke to was professional, took detailed notes, updated the case file. So far, so good. But there was no way to actually submit the audio evidence. No upload facility, no secure portal, no callback arranged to take it.
Seriously, the key piece of evidence.
Yeah, just an assurance that the National Fraud Intelligence Bureau, the NFIB, would review the notes. Which highlights a huge systemic problem, doesn't it?
It really does.
These agencies are drowning in reports. Thousands a day. Limited resources. How do you link a 20-minute audio file to one text report among thousands without a proper system? The infrastructure just hasn't kept up.
And the scammers, like Michael, they probably know this.
You have to assume they do. He knows the system is overwhelmed. And that knowledge, well, it emboldens him, doesn't it? Lets him keep calling. It's a really disheartening cycle.
Okay, so let's try and pull together the key takeaways from this deep dive. What really stands out?
Well, first, I think, is the targeting. It's strategic.
Yeah.
Targeting Amex holders based on this idea about their intellect, their confidence maybe being a blind spot. It's calculated.
Right, not just random calls.
No. Second, the scale. Even if it's just one voice on the phone, the operation behind it likely involves a whole network. Data brokers, SIM farms, the tech.
Yeah.
It's rarely a true lone wolf.
Good point.
And third, maybe the most surprising part, is that psychological crack, that long pause, on to the next. It hints at something human under the surface. Conflict, weariness, something more than just a cold predator.
It complicates the picture, definitely.
It really does. It shows this fragile line maybe between the perpetrator and,
Yep.
well, a person. This unexpected need for connection, even in the middle of a con.
Which leads to a really important point for anyone listening, right? If you've been targeted, or even if you've fallen for a scam.
Absolutely. You are not alone,
Yeah.
and you are not stupid.
You're just human. That's what Michael's confession, in a weird way, reminds us.
Exactly. And that's crucial because silence and shame, that's how these scammers win. That's what they rely on.
So we shouldn't be silent.
Please don't be. Use this knowledge, share this story, or just the core idea that these aren't always faceless monsters, that there's complexity. Share it with people you care about. Parents, friends, colleagues.
Help them stay alert, but maybe without living in constant fear.
Precisely. Understanding is a powerful tool.
Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with. A provocative one, perhaps. If a scammer like Michael drops the act, confesses, what does that actually reveal about deception itself? And what responsibility does that place on us to try and understand it, to confront it, not just dismiss it? Something to think about. Keep doing your own deep dives.